Last night, the West Fargo City Commission denied the request made by a special committee to further investigate what can be done to fix access to local business SheyWest Garden Center. It was a 3-2 vote. The special committee was created earlier this month, and they met for the first time last week, where various plans to improve accessibility to the business were presented. They ended the meeting with a resolution asking the city for up to $10,000 to research possible solutions.
I'm not just trying to say negative things about the commission or anybody else. I'm trying to do whatever I can to work in a cohesive manner to actually get a better outcome than what we've gotten so far. And I have no idea how to go from here.
She went on to say if accessibility to SheyWest does not improve, the garden center will either have to move or shut down.